Oh, it has dots, so I forgot it doesn't have a count on it. So, I'm here again with channel Dark Blue, or as I call him, Mo, Xz, Mvwe, Mvo, Lzwvmmh, Bawa, Rahaz Fu, or I'm sure he has possibly other names too, but this time I think we'll be more precise about talking about this. So it's just our ideas on the subject. If he wants me to find a quote to narrow things down, that's fine too. So let's call this lightning round, if one will.
Yeah.
If you have something to say in the opening.
No, I have nothing in particular to say. I just ask you, do you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Good.
So with the free association, what would you normally think of this sort of symbol? What would you say about its colors and such?
Yeah, first of all, if I consider the eye there, the eye is always an important central symbol in a lot of spirituality. And considering that they have chosen the eye, having had a playful attitude when they have constructed their ideology or their underpinnings of their cult, yeah, I wonder what the eye possibly can mean to them. When it comes to the colors, it seems that to have the rainbow represented, not the rainbow really, but like a transitioning from one specter of the color to another.
Well, they consider that the eye is the media, and some of the versions of it have that spiral in the middle as part of the eye.
Oh,
And
okay.
the horn is the levels of it's the hierarchy of the organization.
That's interesting, because the eye then, if that represents the media, then the media, even though I watch their videos, for example, their media is also watching me. So what they are telling me is that they have created media that is also observing me when I watch it. And this is not really crazy if you consider it from a point of view of magic and the universe basically being magical, that I can create something, some form of art that not only you will observe, but that also will observe you. So this very symbol of theirs may actually be something that forces are looking at you through.
So in regards to her backstory, I'm not sure whether you saw any of the. Just thought I'd show that this one's autographed. I'm not sure if I don't think they all are, but so what role do you think that suicide or the escaping of such circumstances might have in terms of credibility, or like perhaps like you hear of shamans, for example, getting sick and then they get their shamanistic connection, whether you think it relates to that or.
The very first thing I came to think of was the shamanism, the shaman initiation. And to me, it seemed to have been a really serious thing that she went through. And that during this process, it is not unlikely that she has been connecting with different spiritual forces. Then if she has been aware of it, and how much aware she has been of it, and what she has understood of this communication from the spirit side, that's another thing.
So that event would have been back in 2009. She had material that got removed before, that existed before that. But 2012, she made the decision whether or not to. She thought to call it Uniclub. She used to be a cheerleader, and that sort of thing made sense. But she thought that Unicult, calling it Unicult, might have more effect. And she's obviously conspiratorial. She gets into feminism, or what they call feminism cult groups and stuff like this. So she's, of course, the alien thing. She's really into the whole alien thing, and that's, you know, but basically, yeah, it's her journey. So there was a few years after she tried to kill herself, or a little less than 3 years, then she finally decided on things. But she looked into things. She experimented with drugs and mysticism and stuff, and kind of
Yeah.
the truth of your heart. So I guess you'd say emotional truth. What's your opinion in brief about emotional truth?
That's a difficult question, because emotional truth in our day, when it comes to spirituality, it is very popular to embrace oneself as an empath, someone who senses so to the degree that everyone's emotions are available to be sensed by myself, and that I then would be burdened by it, and I have to deal with it and basically find spiritual techniques to shield myself off and so forth. I have never really got myself comfortable with the concept of the empath, and I think that it is too limiting. It is something that I would feel like it limits my self-expression, because what happens if I express myself in a way that is not very empathic, but that is true to myself? I would have to suppress it if I want to keep the title of an empath. So the empath concept becomes more like something, an ideal that you seek to embody, but that you, of course, never really can embody fully, because there will also be a competition among people in the spiritual circle who is the most empathic one. And you come into this
Well, if we look
struggle
at the
that,
most mundane consciousness, the psychological diagram is, the outer stuff. We're not even aware of all the outer stuff. We're aware of like the chord on the top, and even most of the outer stuff. We got to stop paying attention to the beat of our heart. If you listen very closely, a lot of us can hear the beat of our heart and all sorts of stuff. And you just got to not pay attention to it all the time. It's like,
yeah. The thing is that recently I have myself considered the expression "follow your heart," and to me it does not have very much to do with emotions in the sense of expressing love and so forth, but more or entirely about having this intuition and to dare to follow it without having rational explanations for why to follow it. But then also to balance it against the rational thinking overall, so that you set it in some context. But to me, it has been more about intuition. And if there is a feeling aspect to intuition, I guess so. But
I know the word empath is used, but I think empath is like, I don't know. They're trying to make them people. It's like almost they're trying to make themselves seem, well. They want to feel special. So everything is like, everybody else is like, oh well, I'm feeling their emotions and all that stuff, and you're really not. People have their own emotions, but it's kind of like the because the particularly in my country, it's largely a wanting to feel oppressed and wanting to feel offended sort of culture, and that sort of explains the whole thing in terms that kind of separate from the real cause. That, oh well, I'm feeling oppressed and whatnot because I'm feeling the emotions of other people, and
yes,
it's like in this country, it's like they want anybody who's darker, anybody who's not an eighth or whatever black that people consider people black. It's like they have to validate them. It's like, oh no, you're one of the good ones. You're not oppressing me, and it's like, that's just putting another burden on them, I think. But but yeah, it almost sounds like autism, but it's not autism. It's like a chosen sort of, it's not, oh, you're more sensitive to light and sound and you hear things better, or, you notice some things other people don't. It's like, yeah, so.
Exactly. That
But that kind of goes into towards the next question, because their joy in Unicult is defined as basically authenticity. It's not joy or bliss in itself. It's sort of a authenticity in living, I guess. So not killing yourself. The opposite of wanting to die. Anything, anger, sadness, whatever, as long as you're not wanting to die, that's considered joy.
all right. The desire to die. There are many levels to it. Namely, the first one, that you have more like a dissatisfactory existence and you wish to come out of it. But the solution is not really death, but you cannot figure anything out and you fantasize about death being a way out. Then when death suddenly approaches and you come close to death for some reason, then you get a wake-up call and realize that you do not at all want to die. What you really want is to have a satisfactory life. And that suddenly when death comes and offers you the opportunity to actually die, like if you are close to an accident, then what happens is that you quickly get out of your death wish and you figure out some solution to your situation. So in that sense, I think a lot of people fantasize about death, but they don't really want to die. It is that they just don't know what they're supposed to do.
Well, the most likely factor is, it's like, okay, if you expect everybody to approve of all your life choices and desires and all that stuff, it's like, that's virtually not going to ever happen, no matter how common or whatnot that they are. So that's, that's a sort of a nonsense thing to begin with. But one of the most common reasons why people kill themselves is not because they're being tortured or something. It's because they feel they can't be authentically themselves.
Exactly. That's very interesting, because the idea of what others desires you to be becomes too burdensome, becomes like a prison, and you see no way out, because it is painful to adapt to others because you are not authentic. It doesn't come from within yourself. Sure, you may gain their recognition, you may gain that they like you, but you feel within that it doesn't come from you. So you earn their recognition, even though you sense that you do not deserve it, because from the beginning, whatever you do, it doesn't come from yourself. So in that way, if you express something that is contrary to common opinion and it comes from yourself, but no one likes it, then you may still find joy in it, exactly because it is authentic.
And I'm reminded of the person that I mentioned in my Blonde Stranger in the Creek playlist. I put that together as a series of teaching stories. Basically, I'm being truthful about the whole thing, but I'm leaving some details out for her own thing. But I mean, she's been busted enough for heroin that I can mention what happened in May. In March 2008, but in May 2008, she basically told me being on heroin made her the person that people wanted her to be, at least for a brief time here and there. Briefer and briefer as time went on, obviously. But that is what hooked her. It wasn't so much that she couldn't get off that or whatever. It was that it's the only thing that left her in the sort of contentment of, I am, I'm what society seems to want of me.
If we go back to shamanism in the initiation and so forth, or if you have a trauma, let's consider that instead. The shamanistic view of trauma is that your soul escapes. So the role of a shaman can sometimes be to go into the underworld to receive the soul that escaped the person and to bring it back to the body and mind of the person until the person receives the soul. he or she will basically be empty or constantly in longing for something to fill this emptiness. When you say that she discovered that she becomes the one that others want her to be, it may be that she's searching for something that has perhaps escaped her to some degree, at least, because of trauma.
And well, a lot of self-induced, Unicole definitely, trauma is one of the things that led her to whatever, but basically because she didn't know, I mean, people don't like the word, but that's really what it is. Unicole Unicron became like retarded for a couple months after her suicide attempt, and had to build herself back up, but include spirituality this time, rather than she was just somebody that was a vehicle of and just like this other person I mentioned. Except I mean, I don't have any indication that Unicole has been to jail or anything like that. But I mean, this other person really has got off easy in terms of things. But this other person, it was like she stopped seeing herself in whatever terms of whatever the nearest relationship is or whatever, and when she would overdose, when she would be locked up for a few weeks and not have those cigarettes around, she became a different person and realized there was something more important. But once they were given back to her, very quick slip. But
Okay.
yeah,
So
Unicole has sort of, she's had her community kind of here and there, and you know, she hasn't been pulled back down. That's, I guess, a potential threat for her if Unicult somehow falls apart. I don't. It doesn't look well for her.
the very interesting thing is that anyone who is into spirituality and experiences success, because she has success, she is succeeding, and I think that it's fantastic that she manages to create something like this. But the very dangerous thing is that you start to identify as the person who lives within what you have created, and when your creation is gone, what is left of you? Will you collapse into addiction and so forth? And in a way, it is exactly there at that point when you lose the things that you depend on, that you will see where you really stand. And yeah.
Well, that fits into the whole suffering thing, and you see that is that Unicole has, you know, a lot more following than your vast majority of people that have set up their own channels and stuff. But even though I think most people subscribe and don't, you know, it doesn't appear like most of her videos get a tenth of her subscriber count views. But I mean, I don't either. But is that she expects a certain level of attention, and because of that, instead of being pleased with, okay, I'm having effect, possibly my effect is building up, I'm upset that I'm not, like, you know, one little watched MTV episode is like the only media attention that I've basically got that's of that level.
She said in one interview or similar that her desire was to become famous or something along those lines. So it seems that she is having aspirations going beyond what she has achieved at this very moment. Another thing that I came to think of is that when she creates something that succeeds, I mean, she is dependent on upholding this. And if a person is seeking spiritual liberation, I mean, how liberating is it to be bound to something that one has created and having to maintain it? And you are almost forced to do the things that others expect of you. And at such a point, you are not really free. How do you reach that point where you are free? And yeah, but that is, of course, the most basic one of the common spiritual questions that we always have had. But if we consider another guru,
well, it's down to the Buddhists. It's down to one of the Four Noble Truths. Is like something can be done about suffering. So what's something can be done, and that's one of the things I guess that some people don't get. I mean, things are left relatively open as far as what people believe and do in Unicult, but it seems that some things aren't quite answers, like joy. Okay, well, how am I going to get joy? It's like, well, oh, you be authentic. It's like, how you be authentic, or that sort of thing. It's the methodology, or a more general set of ideas that people can work with isn't quite as outlined. Telepathy, I think that's one of the things listed in here. Well, I'm sure it is, but they had their telepathy club. I was kicked out because I was already kicked out with others. So so people's like, but if we leave him in here, they'll be offended. But I've read the stuff for my government's remote viewing program and some other stuff like that. So it's not quite like that, but it's more like a psychological program of maybe interpreting people. So back to the empath thing, 1 to 10 with this, and somebody in the group was having the idea of those 5 cards, like one's a star, another's a spiral and a wave, and I'm talking about those cards that they shuffled.
I lost the sound for a little bit of time because I was planning on seeing how much bandwidth I have left on the phone, but I cannot do that without losing the sound, so I will not try to do that again here. But I lost what you said earlier.
I was saying they had their telepath, had their telepathy club program, and I took part in that very briefly until I was kicked out and could only read the list. But one of the things I saw that somebody brought up to it was that, because basically you're trying to guess what people are thinking and some of that stuff, and a lot of interpretive sort of stuff. But those 5 set of cards. Those set of there's 5 different cards. I don't know how many cards in the deck, but people shuffle them, and like one's a star and another's like a wave, and that sort of thing. So getting better than chance at picking some of this stuff is basically the goal. So if you learn at interpreting people,
exactly. There may be other.
It's not very popular. The really stringent programs that are going to make you do really well with tarot and some other stuff in terms of guessing and interpreting people, it's not really something you can sell to too many people, because it's like, oh yeah, you'll have all sorts of manipulative control over people, but people aren't terribly interested. Like some of the declassified stuff from the governments is pretty interesting, but
exactly. The thing is that people do not always want to put in the effort in order to learn skills. And if she wants to sell, I mean, it is not always easy to sell things that requires that people put in effort. Let's say it like that. And maybe if money is not involved and people come because they genuinely are interested in learning a skill, perhaps then it will show that she will provide something else. But because she has to sell things, I mean, the way she packaged the stuff and the very nature of the product she sells may be compromised in order to reach a wider public.
What is microcosmic and macrocosmic life?
Yeah. Microcosmic and macrocosmic. In what way would you say that they use these terms, if they use them?
Okay. Well, in this, the chapter talks about. Well, it basically talks like life, like it's a video, like it's almost a video game, but there's different. Back to the authenticity thing, and so you're making the shift from dealing with suffering and putting an end of that in your life, and then you're trying to, well, I think in general this would come before the other in progress, is that you try to find authenticity and then you end the discontent. And so then so when you work out the different aspects of your life, eventually that keeps up and influences around you. So
yeah,
that transfers. So the little world and the big world, and then the next part would be experiencing that. So
the very first thing that I come to think of is that I do not experience microcosm and I do not experience macrocosm, but these two are assumptions of mine. Yeah, I can watch some scientific stuff and know that there are atoms and so on, but these are not really relevant to my existence. And when spirituality is promising you that you are working with the macrocosm when you are working with yourself, it is like they are trying to convince you that you are gonna make change, big change in the world just because you practice your meditation. And I find it unreasonable to make such assumptions. It most oftentimes land in wishful thinking that you refuse to let go of, because reality is very uncomfortable and you want what is comfortable, and the wishful thinking is more comfortable.
well,
Because
I think one of the things that made people uncomfortable is that someone started a discussion about the Goetia on their server, which
yeah,
doesn't really but so they started that a lot of, it's like, I keep saying the secret to magical evocation is evoking yourself, because you're the vehicle that has to get things done. And maybe by these operations, people a little bit misunderstand Crowley. It's not like he's saying these things don't exist, but what happens is when you perform these operations, like when you path work, then you're supposed to work through your entire being when you do a full-on path working.
exactly.
Much like I'm doing out in these driveways and sidewalks, and I'm with my chalk right now. You operate in different parts of your brain. I mean, that doesn't mean that things can't join with you. Hence I use the word with, and invoking obviously whatever God name I'm referring to. But it's not like if I only worship Belial, Belial's automatically going to do this thing to me if I just perform the ritual with his symbol. And it's like, well, it's not quite like that. You may awaken yourself towards something that then you're able to accomplish in that area, and you weren't able to accomplish in that area. Or you form a spiritual connection and you're having experience, but you're not, it's not necessarily on the level that's, just summon up glass Labalus and you can destroy a city. And it's like,
Exactly.
when's that
That's
ever
also
work?
that's also what I can see online when I come across a forum on internet where people are discussing some political event has happened that they are not really comfortable with, and the first thing they do is to go out to a forum on internet and to collect people, like, hey, do you want to help me to person go away or something? But I mean, yeah.
Well, if
it
people
is more
believe,
like,
if people believe you're going to die if you point the bone at them, that
yeah,
can have a lot more effect. But people who don't even know what you're doing, it's like, what's this weird dirty dude out here in the woods pointing at with the bone?
exactly. Therefore, in my personal spirituality, it is much more important to me how I am able to deal with real situations where I meet real people. How do my mind operate when I am discussing with another person in a challenging situation, for example? Yeah, it's an ordinary situation, but if I practice magic, my magic skills will flow through me in that situation also, because as you said, you unlock parts of yourself. When these parts have been unlocked, they will influence your very being in this world. It is not that you can
Well, it's like
isolate that.
look at how Christianity, the imbibing of the spiritual into things, when things were being secular, not only did the Christians weren't the first Mithril group to use a vegetarian thing, but that made it more accessible to the common people, because some people, they couldn't even necessarily afford meat within the year. That's just how things were. So they had something you could eat and you drink, and they made that spiritual, and that was a huge factor why Christianity caught on, is because they would meet even multiple times a day and night to partake in these sacred meals. And it's like the meal, your little piece of wheat and your sip of something to drink is, not too much, but when you include the spiritual consciousness, and you can do this in anything, like they're saying,
Yes.
joy in every aspect of your life. If you
Yeah.
put a spiritual context into whatever part of your
Exactly.
life, and people don't even have to know either. It's like,
No, the very cool thing is that I would want to say like this: if you are good at evoking Belial or a similar deity, well, then do it on the street. If someone comes and threatens you, evoke Belial into your, or invoke, bring Belial into yourself, and see if you are able to act with that force in that very situation. That will be a really good way to have your magic actually work in reality. I mean, you stand there, and perhaps this is partly what martial artists are doing. They are not only practicing the moves and so forth, but they learn to access states of mind, which will have them enter another consciousness, which makes them more effective in their martial arts goals. Therefore, the connection with martial arts and spirituality, I think.
So shooting ahead here towards more explicitly what we're talking about, they'd say there's other realms, and there's channeling and meditation, sometimes using particular light, like these colors pertaining to the themes that they got listed there, of feminist technology and spiritual science, and something, and kids being the yellow one. So anything related to youth and farming and business and data and the group as a whole, and fashion and media and horn and whatnot. But they have the realms. They say Atlantis, Fairyland, Dream World, the Astral Plane, space schools, meeting places, jinn, aliens. I guess they're open to other things. But aliens is obviously the big one that they speak about, and they also speak about the higher self as either as a God self, or you can have it as otherwise. Rituals, and of course at the top, there's tools, specifically like crystals. They got the spirit of Uni, which is seen as the transcendent one. So like beyond what most people think of God, into some genderless being, and the auric being worked with. And I think that basically summarizes the very explicit theological side of that.
Yeah.
So any particular thoughts on any of those?
So this is basically supposed to encompass the whole of your mundane life and your spiritual life. As I understood
it's not meant to be a it's not meant to be a compartmentalized system. So
no, because
I mean in the into the other realms, this is the sort of thing they have here. So rituals, inventing rituals, I guess, but prior in itself.
yeah.
But unibless is probably the most common phrase that they use, is that basically, kind of like a different category. But if you're familiar with words like the Semitic terms, in Arabic you have Allahumma, in Aramaic you have Alhim, and Aluhim in Aramea. So you have an extra W in there, but basically all divinity. So instead of a term for worshiping everything divine all at the same time, they have a word for blessing everything all at the same time. So they say unibless.
Yeah. Like a way to tell that this is our group. We know that this is our group because we put uni before everything, and whatever you take becomes, it rests on the foundation of uni. And I guess that she's having an idea of everything being united and so forth.
That's now if I had her on, I would definitely. It's like I never did this with Coetting, but well, I guess he's sort of done a review of his tattoos. I guess he forgot about last weekend. I guess I thought he was going to be on, but the her, I would definitely axe through her tattoos. What about all her tattoos? I think on her palms there she has all one. Does it show here? Okay, yeah, it is clear enough. It is clear enough in this graphic, at least up close for me, that it says all one on her palms, on the the line of her hands.
This thing about everything being one and unification of everything, and we all share the same consciousness and are the same being. I wonder if this is not some kind of maternal force of the feminine, because the feminine force now comes more into our society, with feminism and so forth, and that division, duality, that's not really popular anymore. But personally, as a man, I very much relate to duality more so than unity. When I started my spiritual quest, of course I would buy into.
I don't know about you, but my interaction with women in particular tends to be more towards everything counts. I mean, sometimes there's something little and you got to figure out what it is. Like some short women, you want to give them a little bit higher seat on just on purpose. I mean, it's not that like you get a high chair out or something like that. That's not going to go over well. But you know what I mean. There's little things, but they're more likely to, in my experience, to add up the very individual little things. So overall, you can do just great. And as a guy, you can get along with a guy a lot more easy than you can with a woman if, they're going to remember those little flaws here and there, and can cause all sorts of problems. So I think you have to be more careful with how you act around women in general. So this thing of just uniform and they say it, they want to feel it, but it doesn't quite pan out like it's said. That didn't. My little rant didn't quite sound right, did it? But yeah, it's the. But we. So the parts of the soul and the Kabbalah, which actually some of the Kabbalah ideas are after the Quran, which is interesting that they pick some of the structures and stuff to actually follow. There are words and stuff, but anyways, you have, giving the Kabbalistic terms, you have Nepesh, you have Ruch, you have Anashima. So Anashima is like the intuitive soul. So in a way, we're all connected, but maybe it's not that we're connected, we're interacting with everybody on some level, but you're still your individual. It's like, who was the Sufi? Somebody went up to Rumi, I think it was. Jalaluddin Rumi, someone went up to him and was like, who's better, Bayezid Bazayadin or something, Bazayadid or something like that, or Muhammad? And basically the answer was that Muhammad was more like, I mean, Buddha wasn't mentioned, but Muhammad was more like Buddha, because once he had this experiences, he knew he knew he was still himself, but he had to interact with but he knew there was more. It wasn't like, I've had this top experience, I'm the best of everybody. And so there was a humility with it, and you had to know that you had to do more. Now, they talk about their work ethic, and on one hand they're saying there's no one size fits all, and I totally agree with that. If you can't work 9 to 5 6 days a week, that doesn't mean you're disabled per se. But some people, the way my society in particular is set up that way, is if you can work 2 or 3 hours a day, you're disabled. You can't get a job. But back in the day, what, you'd collect some firework, maybe somebody would help you, maybe not. You could possibly get by. But nowadays that doesn't really work. You know, you can't go out there and farm for an hour or two a day and then do crafts or something for another hour and make a living. You can't do that anymore. So there is some truth to what they say. But the idea of maybe setting up a welfare state, so if you want to sit around doing art, that'd be pretty cool to just sit around doing art and make a living that way. I mean, I wouldn't mind my paintings and stuff selling and making my living that way. But I don't, you know, you don't always get that opportunity. So
idea,
pay for it.
the idea of self-chosen resistance, that if you are provided for, you can choose what resistance you want to engage with. So you choose to engage with art only because that is what you like. But yeah, there is a point to having resistance that is like forced upon you. You know, that you have to go to a work. You are forced by society to go to a work. And that is a kind of resistance. And I think in perhaps a Saturnian way, that there is a lesson to it also, that you learn something by actually having to engage with things that you otherwise would not choose voluntarily to engage with. Of course, there has to be a balance to it also, but I think there is a lesson to it also, an important lesson for people to learn. Yeah, actually, that's ego death. People, they want to have this ego death that is glamorous, and you have these fantastic experiences. But real ego death to a lot of spiritual people would be to go and get a real job. Because that would counteract their spiritual ego of them being so loving and elevated that they cannot even manage a job. But I mean, if they have to go to a job, they would have to counteract that spiritual ego of theirs, and yeah, to associate with people who are not into spirituality and all of these crazy ideas. I mean, you are crushed instantly oftentimes in the company of ordinary people who do not even know the terminology that you use, when you are forced to relate to people in ordinary ways. That is something you learn from also, and perhaps you learn even more from it sometimes.
Well, that's part of why the aspect of insight roles is like you learn to talk to people in different things. It's like the one group, to give sort of the layout of, you know, because they have the rainbow and they divided their realms. So down in green, you would have the physical realm, and you have the emotions and stuff in red or pink. And then you go up into orange, and that would be the cause of things. And then your mental stuff would be your blue, but then you divide the intellect into like in purple, and then yellows and whites and stuff would be the purely spiritual realms. But other groups, you know, because rainbows, I've where's they say what they did about rainbows. But okay, they have unitopia. Unitopia is obviously a word they're going to be using. But unitopia, the value of that idea is, okay, fair opportunities, and those who need help, their basic needs are provided for. But who's going to provide the basic needs for people if we're all trying to live on, if you can work, but you don't work? And then you can look at work as an aspect of it gives me the opportunity. My work can be devoted towards my spiritual cause because it's giving me it's providing my living, and it's providing me the free time or the resources in order to accomplish this over here. So if you can't bring those two together, then perhaps. But it's like, yeah, what are we? What are we going to do as a society if we're all trying to live on? Who's going to pay that 1,000 or 2 a month check? And disabled people. There's not really the talk about raising things so you can get a place to live, being disabled or whether elderly or injured or something. But there's talk about people who can work. If we can't take care of the people who can't work or help them out where they're lacking, I'm not sure how that's going to work. So that's something I don't see too hashed out in people with this idea.
No, and I think that, people who adhere to these ideas, they are not aware of how much difficult and boring and challenging and dangerous work there is out in the world. So, elderly people or disabled people, yeah, who is going to take care of them? Well, let's say those who love to take care of people can take care of them. But that's not really a solution, because what people don't understand is that these situations can be really challenging. Disabled people can be really challenging if you have physical disabilities and mental disabilities, for example. So you need to have competence. And how do you get people with competence? Well, they have to be trained, and the training is not going to be fun always. So
and that's one of the things too. It's like nowadays, the big thing we're talking about is how all these millions of tests being done for, they don't even know which one of the 8 ones they're testing at what, there's now 8 strains of this COVID thing. And it's like, anybody who's taken those college courses, I've sat down and taken a course on this stuff. Taking genetic tests is not, it's not an easy thing. So it's not like they can pull people off the street to do a 4 to 6 hour test and run them all day long, one after the other, trying to, that part of it's difficult enough, just being physically there.
There has to be a consistency, that the people who are engaged with it are consistently being engaged, that they do not run off. But if you're going to have people who only work because they feel that this is fun and so on, I mean, we cannot guarantee that they will remain for very long. Or that if you have people who want to work it because they think it is fun, the question then becomes, are they having the competence? Are they willing to put in the effort to be consistent in education enough to gain the skill and then be able to work with it? So
it's like, have you ever seen the Nirvana video for Smells Like Teen Spirit? This is like something the band was not prepared for, is that for a 4-minute video, you're spending all day with a crowd of people, and the band looks pretty angry by the time of the video, ready to like kill someone or something.
yeah,
And that's the thing. They I mean, time and stuff is being put into it, but some of these musicians that aren't just put there for some pop figure, they put their time in, but they don't want to spend weeks in the studio to record even one song. It's like,
no. And take, for example, people who are making YouTube videos. If you're gonna succeed and become big and earn money on it, you're not gonna have fun all the time. If you want to have fun making videos, you're gonna remain a very small channel. But
or have very small chance to begin with. You're like a millionaire that's blowing your money partying, and you've got attention online doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I myself can point out that some of the stuff that I've put out is based on even years, not only days or weeks or months or something, but years of other stuff went into it. It's not like it was the only thing I was working on that whole time. But people don't get that part, and it's like the people who edit their videos, I found out it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't get me any more views. And you see people that will spend 8 to 10 hours editing of YouTube video that's less than 10 minutes long, and they or maybe it's an hour or whatever it is, and they don't get any more views. Really, it doesn't seem like they, so if they don't enjoy spending 8 hours editing, why are they, if they're not having any more effect, probably, why are they doing
Exactly.
it?
They may be doing it because they think it is fun, they like it, but it is not going to reward them. And yeah,
And
because
some stuff, like after a time, it's like learning to play a musical instrument or math or something. Sometimes after the difficulty of learning and all that, then it's like, but initially, even for years, it's like, oh, I don't want to do this, but
exactly.
something at the other end.
If we consider Unicult, she will have to, she may come to a point where she is not passionate and that it feels like a work she has to go to. And then she has to question herself, is she still authentic or genuine? They emphasize authenticity. And if she doesn't feel this passion and so forth anymore, I mean, then she has to question herself whether she is authentic or not. And I mean, will she continue if she is not authentic? Or will she give it up and say, hey, I give this to someone else to run now, but I'm going to do something else? That's the real challenge. And you can see it in, I think that if you watch Muji, it seems like he is a prisoner, the guru, Muji, a prisoner to his audience, that they expect from him, and he just has to sit there. He cannot go anywhere really, but he has to be that guru. He's locked into it right now. And it perhaps doesn't really come from within himself anymore. Or he has become void in order to fill the expectations of others. He has become that person which they project onto him. He has become that, and therefore he is now soulless himself. His soul escaped because people, they use him for their own purposes. And yeah, exactly. That perhaps is or was exactly what Muji went through during his realization, that his soul escaped and now he's a fit vessel for the people who wants to have him become someone that they want to see. And in a similar way, I think that anyone, and also Unicron, she risks becoming this. I don't say that she is like that. And yeah, I said earlier that from a shamanistic point of view, perhaps her soul has escaped, but I don't want to say that this is the case. It's just a suggestion, and that I myself don't consider myself to embody my soul completely. I, for example, often think that, yeah, my soul probably has escaped and my spiritual adventure is about getting it back. So,
well, like this quote here from the gender is not recommended in Unicult. Well, a lot of what is labeled as gender isn't really, perhaps gender stereotypes, but one of the things, the physical side is the physical side. I don't know how you can say anything about it. It's like they passed a bill in my country that doctors are now allowed to treat people based on their bodies rather than what people say about their bodies. Literally, I could go into a doctor and say, I'm a black woman, and they might have to treat me as a black woman rather than as a Teutonic white male of whatever age I actually am. That could really mess up in terms of healthcare.
Yeah, exactly, and that denies reality, and it shows how seductive the realm of the mind is. That the realm of the mind comes to overshadow the actual reality you are living in.
But if you want to play a role in your own home, you want to play a role at the club that's accepting of whatever role, that's that's what it is, But how can you identify identity politics if you don't want to have identity?
Exactly, and the question becomes, what any cult or this cult, what Unicult provides, is it that you are going to be rooted in reality, or do they provide an alternative to reality?
Well,
meaning
meaning
that
honesty. Okay. Okay, honesty, I think is the issue, but okay, I think you could say in a way they have 5 pillars here: uh, abundance and wealth, healing evil, creation over consumption, digital salvation, and unconditional love. Would I guess be their 5 pillars of
Yeah.
approach. So much
So
like I mean, going back to the I did I say Goetia earlier? So many
yeah,
people
you said
say it
Goetia.
wrong. Yeah,
You,
that's not the Greek has the Gachtaya, so I like that. That sounds like like a samurai thing or something. Gachtaya. Um, but Goetia, one of the things about it is that some people approach that or the Grimorian Barium or something like they're going to make these beings, they're going to heal the evil in them, and
yeah.
you do sort of you may try to influence things towards good or something, but the heal evil idea that okay, there is, you know, I'm not you, you're not, there is a them out there, but it's not like we're not stereotyping one group as like evil or something. That's, I guess, the main thing. And then if there's something wrong, it can be, you know, it can be dealt with. It's not necessarily a permanent thing if it's a living thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you mentioned, was it like 5 points: unconditional love, gender, something, and evil, healing evil? What was all the 5 points? Can you say them again?
Abundance and wealth. So kind of that fairness of resources thing, but
Yeah,
uh, abundance is not necessarily the same thing as having a pile of gold either.
no,
Creation over consumption,
yeah,
digital salvation, in whatever order one wants those. So technology as, you know, helping us along, much like I say, you know, are you going to listen to me?
yeah,
Some traditions, there's this goal to learn, and I've
yeah,
mentioned that before. It's like it's so much easier to learn and practice when you have all these machines that can sit forth and play the rituals and the scriptures and put forth frequencies. I could turn right now to a brainwave thing and put some feedback on the thing, but having a constant buzz might be an annoying thing for either you or whoever's going to watch this. So that's not really going to be the thing here. But
yeah. And they had
so yeah,
unconditional,
technology working.
and they had unconditional love and healing evil.
So they used the word. She had some experience as a Christian. So
Yeah,
the use of the word we form opinions constantly. It's not a bad thing. But looking aside the way that it's spoken as a buzzword, the idea that I love you because of this, or I'm going to do good for you just because of this. It's like that's how marriages fail. Is that you
yeah,
have a bad week and my spouse had a bad week, so I'm going to cheat on them, and it's going to basically wreck the rest of the marriage, or it very well could.
yeah.
Instead of, okay, is this the right thing to do? This is the right thing to do, and as long as both people have that, you know, it can make a huge difference.
Exactly. And if you have unconditional love, I mean, it can be done the wrong way. That if you unconditionally love someone who is manipulative or taking advantage of you, then you cannot be unconditionally loving.
Yeah.
But I, for example, would not unconditionally love everything, but I can unconditionally love a person. That's no problem because I choose to love. Yeah, that's interesting. I choose to love someone unconditionally. So I don't love the person unconditionally to begin with, but I have to first choose to love that one unconditionally. That means that I don't love everyone unconditionally. And if they would claim that you have to love everyone unconditionally, then I am not aligned with that. And I would also say that, I mean, digital salvation, I can say that I do not agree to that either. And healing evil, yeah, then I am evil in their view, perhaps because I do not align with some of these points. Are they gonna heal me then? And yeah, I can say also that I am a man. I feel that I am a man. I don't feel like a woman in any way, and I want to be a man and not a woman. And when I see another one who looks like me in their physical body, I think that that person is a man, even if that person may say otherwise. I decide
Yeah,
myself what I want to think.
I think I told you people got upset because I had no idea that on both hands, I didn't know that somebody that just look, I look at people's hips and jaws and instantly, I went to school. I can't be fooled by a femme male or a butch female and think that they're one or the other. That's in a biological sense. I'm going to identify them right away.
Yeah, and there is a good reason for it, and it is about power. Because if another male comes, I know that this is gonna be possibly a power struggle. It doesn't have to be, but it can be, and I have to know if it is a man or a woman because of this. Because men challenges each other in different way, and women do it too. And so, even though we have an ideology, my deeper mind will still have an interest in knowing what that person is, because that person may want to take advantage of me. And so, from that point of view, I'm gonna take that as a man if it looks like a man, and I do it for practical reasons.
Well, the one thing that they did include in the, because one of their, which color I don't quite have their colors down yet. So it's the red line. So the red line is feminine technology. But if whatever masculine or feminine or neutral or something is brought out to the advantage, they could enhance this aspect of digital salvation. Is that if the technology worked to the advantage of whatever natural advantages we already have, or maybe supplemented those weaknesses, whatever they were, rather than gendering it at the end here, it'd be a pretty solid concept. And there is some issues in terms of the feedback and stuff like this that does happen with things. Now, the 5G signal is one that people in Unicult are particularly tend to be afraid of. At least that's the perception. But the fact is, they've known about it for 100 years, and they know just how much strength and size you need to put this signal of. And you can kill people and animals with it, but it's nothing that will ever be. A cell phone tower doesn't reach those levels. It doesn't reach those widths. So they already got the testing of the frequency. It's just not what people think. Just like the Tesla they have frequencies that will kill cancer. But it's not that you have this tiny little device the size of a cassette thing that puts off the frequency and you're going to kill everyone in the room. That's not how it is. It's going to be a digital surgery device.
Yeah. In a sense, you can say that when you study people living in the jungle who are not having had contact with modern society, they see an airplane in the sky and they think that it is a dragon, and they have stories about this dragon. The dragon comes once a year, but they don't know that it is an airplane. So in a similar way, people are not educated always when it comes to technology, and they talk about 5G being this dragon. Yeah, it is like that, a dragon coming with fire, and it's gonna burn all of us.
Like the other rainbow using cult that I joined to interact with more fully, I guess you could say. What their leader talks about these EMFs, and he doesn't know. Your car has electric things. Don't say you can't take a plane, but you can take a car. It can be surrounded by all these electronic devices, but not the computer. No, not the computer.
Yeah.
It's like my father back in the 80s, when he first even was able to afford this stuff for a business that wasn't a huge business, because they weren't $3,000 a piece anymore. That people like, this thing's printing when the guy's not right there over it. That freaks some people out. But nowadays, but that leader, as soon as the computer technology came in, he started saying all this EMF stuff, so he didn't have to do his computer work himself. But yeah, he had a great team working under him to write his books and stuff anyway, so he didn't have to type that stuff out anymore. But
of course, we should not dismiss the possibility of things being dangerous. There have been cases of chemicals having made people deformed and so on. You know, like babies, pregnant women, and so forth. But also whatever is unknown, people project their fears, and it becomes this dragon because they don't know it is an airplane.
They do talk about risk. They talk about harm none, which in terms of criminal law is a huge problem. Defunding the prisons and the police and all this stuff.
That's so funny because
it's not working. It's like, look at what happened in my country. Getting rid of the death penalty has turned my country into the country that commits most of the rape, most of the child molestation. Send the kids to Thailand. That's a super safe place for children in American terms. Maybe not in your country's terms, but in my country's terms it is. Because you know what I'm talking about. But so harm none, maybe not harming for the cause of it. You don't want to be a Ted Bundy who finds out at 14, 15 years old that you like hurting people and you're trying not to get caught killing people so you can kill more people. And drugs and sex, it's like, okay, sometimes it's usually best to have the straight up plant-based medicines, but there's benefits like I'll bring up opiates again because it's easy chemically to think of. Orpavine exists in opium. Now, opium can have a kind of balanced feel to it as compared to other opiates, but because you basically have all the alkaloids and stuff, it does feel kind of balanced. I'm not saying to take it. They are saying that you can have shamanism in terms of drugs and sex and stuff, but are just for your enjoyment. But there's risk involved. Realize what you're doing. But like, for example, plant-based versus other. The safest man-made painkiller is heroin.
Yeah.
Of course, that black and brown stuff that people buy from dealers, they don't even know where the heroin is in that bag. So that's something different. But orpavine naturally occurs. There's a limit to how much orpavine you can have. So if you're trying to relieve pain with opium and you're having hospital length burn victim level pain, you can kill the people by giving them opium. But if you give them heroin or even codeine and stuff, you'll have a lot higher survival rate. Codeine's more damaging on the liver and stuff, but so sometimes, and codeine's the natural thing you extract. So if codeine is more damaging on the brain and the liver and stuff, so it's not quite the same thing as plant-based. And plant-based too, it's like some stuff, it is depending on the plant. It's like if you've talked to drug addicts and the culture and stuff like this, you run into stuff like, a merciful God would not make us sit around chewing these leaves all night just to get this to stay high. It's like, that's sort of the thing. That's why people didn't die sitting down with the bowl of cocaine or the bowl of that type of acacia that has the meth in it. They didn't die because they sat around chewing the plant. There was some balance involved. Things were timed out. But like khat has its risk. But bath salts, as they call it, that stuff's super dangerous compared to sitting around chewing this plant. I accidentally consumed some once, and it's like taking ADHD medication and drinking black coffee at the same time. But you don't lose the attention like you do with coffee. You keep the attention, but it's super dangerous as far as a drug when you extract it into a little pack that you can just snort up a night's worth in a however quick you can snort up your ounce of powder, or however much of this.
Yeah, when there is power is very central to existence, and even when it comes to plants, because I saw this, there is a plant who is able to release some kind of drug that falls to the ground, and the ants comes and consumes it, and the ants who consumes it, they start to serve the plant by cleaning the plant and doing whatever. So the ant is for sure having a fun time being drugged, but the ant becomes a slave to the plant So the plant has evolved to take advantage of the ant by releasing this drug. And I mean, it's not far away to think that drugs and humans, there may be a similar relationship there. Not that this always applies, but people who become addicted to a particular plant, perhaps they have been seduced by the plant, and by the plant spirit.
And the interesting thing about plant shamanism is sometimes the most powerful is not per se what level of intoxicant you're dealing with, is the alignment with one's spiritual cause or the spiritual relationship with whatever entity that one's having a spiritual relationship with, how much in line that plant is. And then it's like, you know, like I find with seasonals and stuff like this, if you use different scents and stuff like this, it can have an effect that that if you get into it in that moment where you get into it, it can be as strong as, now I never was a recreational drug user, but I did take medication, and it can be as strong as taking some stuff. But you're not trapped in it like you might be with the thing, you know. Being trapped in a state for 12 hours or something isn't necessarily what you want, or even 4 or something. So power, let's sum up power here. There's forgiveness.
Yeah.
There's spiritual leadership. There's real, well, they do talk about rainbows, but there's brainwashing, healing versus pretending, fun and pleasure, and morals. I guess that all can tie into the power thing. Because forgiveness, okay, I do understand conditional forgiveness, and I do understand it's not always the best to forgive people just to forgive people. Maybe forgiving people when it's not like, you know, to realize it's better for you to forgive, and so that's sort of a power when it's just, okay, I'll forgive you. That doesn't, you know.
And perhaps the other person is putting like a spiritual pressure on the other to forgive. Yeah, you know, I have done something wrong, and then I want you to forgive me. So I feel so bad that you don't. So I put spiritual pressure on to you so that you come and forgive me. But then you don't forgive because you realize that you did something wrong, but you did it because I force you to do it by putting spiritual pressure on you.
And sometimes it seems like it's not good for the person to just outright receive the forgiveness. It's like, you literally hear stuff like, I started going to church, so you should forgive me for raping you. I've heard of people doing stuff like that, and it's like, yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
Sometimes forgiving can mean that you don't stop the punishment, but you say, okay, the punishment's enough.
Exactly.
Like I like the old way of punishing, whether the death penalty or somebody survived, the reason for the punishment was so that they could be atoned for in terms of this world. That, you know, that there wouldn't be something carrying on either society or otherwise, and making it public. It's like, that's why honor killings don't work, is you go off and kill somebody in secret because you've been disrespected. It just doesn't have the effect that an execution would have.
No, exactly, because it's a social thing. And if you do it in secret, it's not going to have the social effect.
Like there's not, there's not this, I mean, I try not to get my entertainment this way or something, but certainly education and whatnot. One of the things that you notice with the figure Ted Bundy, who was executed like 30 years ago last year, once it was known he was a killer. Part of the reason that he killed maybe over 100 people, and it seems like maybe he did. They just know of 30-something bodies, just like some other killers. They put him in the scene. Another killer, they put him in the scene of 2,000-something dead people, according to what they told him. But they could only prove 180, and they executed the guy before. That's enough. We've proved enough. That's it. You're done for. So that's how they took care of it. But Bundy you could tell he went into predator mode when he was able to talk about his killings. So he could get the thrill, get a huge amount of the thrill of the kill. Just, this is what I've done. This is, you know, thinking. But he wasn't allowed to do that. That was a completely separate part of his life before he was caught. So, you know, some people,
Exactly.
they get their power by things being secret. It hides a lot of the power, whether it's a good thing to do or a bad thing to do.
Yeah, and afterwards, when he had been caught, he was able to talk about it and gain social attention, and that perhaps triggered these regions in his mind so that he could experience it within.
Because before he was convicted, you compare Ted Bundy to what happens with a cat when you see a cat's going to go after a mouse or a little bird or something. You see the same stuff with the eyes and some differences in the face and stuff. It's not like the stereotypical fake expressions you're going to see in a horror film, which if you look close, they're fake expressions almost always. And you really worry if they're not fake expressions. You really do. But
this is interesting because people, they think that they themselves are distant from these forces, that they do not have this within, but we are humans. We have evolved to have this for protection and to hunt and to do things that are not really good, but from an evolutionary standpoint have worked. But what people don't realize is that this is part of human psychology. And as you say, when the cat sees the mouse, something awakens, and the cat is not having moral dilemmas and so forth, but experiences a thrill. The whole body and mind comes alive in another way. And similarly in humans, and in this particular human, that he triggered this hunter region of his mind, and that one, I mean, he did not have like a distance to it.
And back to the thing. One of the things they talk about, obviously, they're listing they're not listing the sort of range that I would talk about, but infralow, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma waves. Okay, if you know that the human being is basically in theta as its usual, theta or delta as its healthy states, why are you talking about raising the vibrations? Don't you want to lower the vibrations so you're kind of more at peace and all that stuff? So people talk about raising we respond to a huge range. That sort of the thing is, maybe you want to learn how to respond to some of the higher ranges and stuff like that. But so, you know, that the feedback and stuff like this is like, yeah, if one's going to be technical, one really should know what one's talking about. Because, you know, it's like, imagine somebody saying, I'm going to relax by shooting it by raising my vibrations. I'm going to, well, that's anxiety. As the human brain approaches 10 hertz, it gets a heart attack. It starts to have anxiety and goes into heart attack mode. Now that's going to be, you know, fight or flight, but you can't hold that up. Your system's not meant to maintain
exactly
that all the time.
I listened to some guy talking about these breathing exercises, and people who are engaging with them, believing that it will improve their bodies and minds and spirituality so much. But what is discovered is that they create health problems by breathing in unnatural ways. And so it is not at all having this fantastic effect of making them superhumans and so forth.
Well, look at what the I've probably mentioned this one before, even with you. The Dalai Lama and Muhammad and some of the other ones before, did they require these like some of these Jewish services that you go in and it's like an hour and a half or even 3 hours, or some of the Protestant churches and their Sunday services, it's like, it's better to have these quick services that are a couple minutes, or like just get back to things. And that's what's recommended in the terms of the regular life. And you go to the house of worship, it's not supposed to be all that much longer. maybe you sit around and talk and stuff, but it's not supposed to be these, you know, like the new age movement when it first caught on, is all these gurus going about having you meditate for 3 hours. And you know, here we talk about one of the headings in here is healing versus pretending. So are you telling yourself all is fine, all is fine, all is fine, or actually you're working out things and trying to figure out what to do about this and what balance to bring back? Cyclical patterns of thinking, you know, ritual can bring in, can establish and maintain the ethic and mythology that you want, or you could just let whatever pattern cycle follows that you just slip into. And so that kind of makes sense. And most people are going to get into cycles, and that's why it's important to actually actively do things instead of laying in front of the TV and let them do whatever they want to you.
I could instantly challenge them when they say healing or pretending. Are you healing or are you pretending? Well, what are they healing? Are they healing themselves? I say, you're weak. Are you so broken that you have to be healed? I am not broken. I don't have to be healed. I live my life. It's good. It's fantastic. And I love it. And I don't care about healing you and if you heal yourself. So instantly, I put myself outside their context and embrace my power. And they cannot run their game on me of assuming that I also believe that I am broken and need to align to their.
Well, that's one
belief.
of the things. I don't. Now, it's not entirely a Teutonic thing, but let's say that's a stereotype for Northwestern Europeans in particular. Darkness isn't evil. Negativity isn't evil. Those are I mean, evil is in terms of something. You know, evil's positive and negative too. It's not, and good's positive and negative. You know, this dichotomy doesn't really per se exist. And one of the things that people talk about, do they have the word soulmate in here? But she used the word soulmate in terms of her husband who left her. And the thing, well, okay, I don't know the exact status of their current relationship. Maybe they've somehow reconciled us to be video chatting or something. I don't know. I can't speak on that. But we have to be, people got to be complete in themselves. Waiting around for somebody else to complete you, or saying that even if you're becoming, well, you're becoming. Stop saying that you're if you're fixing things, if you're perfecting, that's what you should be doing. Don't worry about, something about being, you know, I need someone to complete me, or I need this to complete me. It's like,
you know, if you are broken, you get the attention of another, and that's a nice thing. So there may be a purpose to it. It's like a social interaction, and nothing wrong with that. People want to interact in ways, and perhaps they have parts that they can improve, and to call these parts broken and that they need to be healed, I mean, it becomes like a market of healing. We help each other heal here, and that's also perhaps what is in the Christian context, where you are so filled with sin that you have to go to a collective of people who are also having sin, and you're honest about it, and you receive the guidance of the priest to heal it. And when you do this together, it feels wonderful, and there is a point to it, I understand. And if that's their thing, well, that's fine. Now, I have a suggestion to them, and this can be for the evolution of their cult. Why not make something like a dating service where their members can unite in partnership, like like when you have boyfriend and girlfriend, but that this is only virtual. So they have virtual romances, and they can meet on camera and so on. So the love relationship would be detached from the actual physical reality. They only see each other through the screens, and there they can have something like a futuristic love society that exists in cyberspace.
And okay, yeah, the anything is possible. Okay,
yeah, exactly. Anything is possible. They can make this possible. That would actually be fun.
That does sound like something that can be brought about. I'm not sure how many actual members they have, but if they're more open to even okay, if you consider yourself this and have a more open forum and a member-only forum.
But because imagine what much fun and even drama it would be when people can have a boyfriend for a week and they announce this on their chat or forum or whatever they have. They announce this and then they can end the relationship and have a relationship with another, and yeah.
And it will save those still going to psychologists some of their psychological fees.
I'm sorry?
I said it will save some of those that are still going to psychologists among them, which I think there's a lower number considering considering the type of people in the group. But it would save in terms of that. Yeah, yeah. It could help with some other some different issues. They talk about eternal youth. It's like, okay, well, you're only as young as you feel. That sort of thing. There is truth behind, okay, let's not be so ageist, but again, to the limitation thing, if you have limits, you have limits.
Yeah. Again here, they are living like detached from reality in the sense that when you say that you are only as young or old as you feel, I mean, then you deny your body. You want to live in a world where your body, your physical body, doesn't matter. And so that was why I was thinking of this virtual dating relationship service that they can have, offering their members, because it becomes like following the theme they are already having, that to create this paradise in the virtual space where they are having their social interaction that matters more than the real life, because they never meet in the real life, and yeah, they want to live in this virtual space basically.
Well, you notice the quality of music. It's like, I'm not sure if they're I can't, it's not really sing, but see, I have one of those kid keyboards, and I can't really, you can't really play a chord on this thing. I don't think it doesn't really sound like you can play 3 notes at once, so you can't really play a chord on it. So I'm not sure if they actually have any music that's you can require that, but that sort of the sort of music that's played, the sort of her pornos released on VHS, like it was released in the early 90s or something, and she cassette tape release and stuff. So there's some sort of nostalgia back to her childhood, I guess. Is what's going on with some of that.
Yeah, but if you consider the trauma, I mean, it is not uncommon to want to go back to that which was before. So perhaps it is a way to explore the past in terms of the new, by making art and so forth that relates to the nostalgic memories. You can once again experience it as
well,
it was
particularly
before.
on some level. If on some level, I know her legal name. I'm not saying this in this program or something, but if on some level she's saying to herself, now I don't blame, regardless of any factor, even if it's wrong. I'm not saying that victims are responsible for the crimes committed against them. That's not what I'm saying at all. I want to be clear about that. Real consent issues are real consent issues. It doesn't like enthusiastic consent. It's like, no, I've been with women like that. They disrupt the neighbors. They don't even look like they're enjoying themselves as much as other people with whatever No, it's not necessary. Consent is consent. If no one's resisting, no one's saying no, that's consent. But if the trauma that she went through, if she's saying, it's because I wasn't innocent. So on some level, she wants to go back to an age where she was innocent, because then she's not responsible for the what happened in her life, and she's not she detaches from the other mistakes she's perhaps made in life, and therefore, kind of like a different version of what you'd have with Michael Jackson is what I mean. If she sees this, she's not going to like me saying this, but whatever. But it's sort of the same category. Is that Michael Jackson misses his childhood, but on the case of Caesar, as she likes the I'll combine the pronouns that she likes to use. But
one way to view her is that she is, or she has become, the princess who is inside her own castle of imagination. So that what she has created around herself is her castle, and it is an imaginary world where she is the princess. Of course, she gains the attention from others as if she is a princess. And on this picture here, it is actually aligning with what I say, because it looks like she is portraying herself as a princess, and also having this innocent virtues and aspirations of healing the earth, and with good intentions and so forth, and being a divine being in her own world of imagination, where she's also having built this castle by her imagination. I don't say it is wrong. I don't say it is bad. This may actually be a very good spiritual path if it works for her. And, you know, I myself work heavily with my imagination, and I am on my own visionary quest where imagination is central, and I almost live more in this world, and I'm in the imaginary world than the external world. And the external world only becomes a medium to uphold my imaginary world that I primarily live in.
Well, that's the thing. We actually do operate on some level that we're not processing at the speed of what we're encountering. Our brain kind of skips over. That's why we're able to work ourselves into some of the trances and stuff that we do, because our brain's designed to work a certain way. And it's like with music. If you're going to entrain with music, there's a song that I reference that it's the first one that comes to mind, so I'll bring up "In the Blood" by Better Than Ezra. Now, you expect, particularly with the music video, you expect the video or the song to be a particular way. And so there's this double break in the song. And if you entrain to it, it has this effect to it. And there's other songs you can and stuff that this can be done with too. But you're expecting this, and because there's a break in that, then that. And "Shame in You" by Alice in Chains kind of does the same thing. They're weaving a pattern, they're working something else in, and you move with it, and then like you expect something. So your brain is, because it's not the same, you know, the stereotype rock and roll of 3 chords in a pattern played over and over and over again, you know, then you can have more of an effect because it's not the same thing the whole time. But if you base it on reality, you're trying to figure things out on your reality, your mythology, your you know, spirituality, what you're thinking deep, you're trying to think what is, what could be, you know, that's not quite the same thing as or at least it doesn't have to be the same thing as escapism, as would probably be the most common term of that, is that it doesn't have to be some escapism where, like, people with their video games, people are dying playing video games nowadays because they're getting more and more realistic, and you put on that VR helmet and you forget to eat, drink, go to the bathroom, and everything else.
The thing is that she has to realize if she is into escapism, or if she is into a spiritual path that leads somewhere. And, you know, when people start out their spirituality, I think that most of them, including myself, I have also started as an escapist, that most people start as escapists, but that does not mean that one's creation and what one has begun with is false. It just means that you have to shift from escapism to whatever else, to root yourself in this reality, and at the same time continue your spiritual path.
Like,
but that's a question she has to ask herself.
One thing I get, spiritual leadership, like one of her songs, one of the songs, I don't remember which one, basically you're all the leader, but that's not really quite it, but you're the leader of your own spiritual world. That's close enough. But before I get into a part I don't think we've discussed, you know, consciousness, ultimate reality. I mean, we haven't drawn these out to focus, but personal reality, okay, harm, not forgiveness. What have we? I just wanted to go over the titles of what the things we have, but we've really talked about physical reality and spiritual reality, and social reality and
I actually think that she creates her reality here, and that she is actually having some power. And if you look on the image there, you can see this black spiral there. And I get the sense of power. I mean, I get the sense that this spiral represents power. Yeah, of course, hypnosis also.
It's like the word brainwashing. Some of it's very obvious, standing for a spiral, accept me as your prophet, spelling it with a P and flashing it on the screen, and I mean spelling with an F and putting it on the screen, and other sorts of inserts like that. It's like not even being subtle with the programming. And I guess that's the thing. It's like people's like, oh, the whole thing's a joke, so they make it influence that way. But it's largely people that were getting into these things in the first place. Is okay, the rainbows, you have a different spectrums that you're responding to as you get more aware, you're working better with them. But and different and talking about aliens and dreams and all that, and different dimensions and different ways of looking at time. So it's stuff that people looking at the videos and the material were already interested in to begin with, but it sort of forms, as she said, a uniclub. Power. Okay, what Path of Joy. There was one more that there was like 5 points that I thought we may want to say something else.
I just have to say that I think that she's drawing people in, or inviting people to come into her imaginary castle. And this imaginary castle does not only exist in her mind, but people who are following this, they do enter her world, and that she is the manifestor of it. And thus she is the princess in this castle. And in this world, her rules apply.
So
I mean, in her castle, in her online.
That's why, you know, all these terms with uni, certain, it's like, okay, gender non-conforming really means as a female I want to be the one in charge, or I don't, you know, I watched some show from the 50s, or I don't know what the case is, but she has this view that this stuff is maybe not what females do, so therefore, like math, she brought up math. So dancing around is somehow a female thing, and I don't believe that. Don't believe that one myself. Or math is somehow a male thing, and it's not quite that. There's certain abilities that are more likely, but
of course, math is a male thing, because math relates to reality. It breaks this imaginary world where everything is possible, because math describes reality.
It's like, okay, there's certain things more common. Look at, if you've seen Infants in Cribs.
I just have to comment that, yeah, math is a male thing from the perspective that it relates to reality, and she wants to divorce from reality. She wants to therefore to divorce from the male, and therefore she emphasizes the feminine or transgenderism or something. But thus she will not like math for this reason, because it is against the very subjective realm that she lives in.
There's certain things that males and females are. It's like, if you've seen, you can see it all over the place, really, if you pay attention. Kids going up to their mother and talking at the same time, or even just another female, and understood. But almost always, I can understand multiple voices talking at the same time, but you know, females are the ones that tend to be able to do that, or are a lot more likely to do that. And you see this from the cradle. What happens? You see a kid in a crib, you put a mobile, the male is looking at the shapes and stuff like that, and the female's looking at the faces. A lot more, you see this dichotomy pretty much instantly in terms of that sort of behavior. And there's a bunch of other examples that if I was more versed in the subject I could bring up, but I only meant that, like, you know, it's like if you look at the joints, endurance and physical strength and how fast you can run tends to be something that, you know, the male's going to do. If you don't know anything, male versus female, you got to always bet on the male in those categories. But in terms of other endurance, maybe the female, you got to bet on the female in whatever circumstance. It's just, you know, okay. So their path to joy, I guess, is where to close, because we've talked about and think deep, and we've gone over something related to each of these, and we're going long. We're a bit longer than you had said. So
we can continue. It's all right. If you have more things you want to bring up, we can take it.
We've really gone over everything, but I think the going back to the path to joy, they have turning skepticism into hopefulness. Although sometimes you do have to accept defeat, I would think. But attention. Thank you for your attention is a phrase that Unicole Unicron is used quite a bit. From what I've seen.
I have oftentimes in my own videos, I have said, thank you for having attended and so forth. I have got this impulse to thank for the attention people have given me when they have watched my videos. So it is interesting that they are also doing it. Thanking for attention. Yeah, what can it possibly mean?
And truth and transmutation and creation and dedication and time. So of course, yeah, you gotta focus. You gotta figure out what your time and your cause. And but yeah, that's their 6-step path to joy right there.
Yeah. Dedication would be one step to joy, for example. Then, yeah, dedication.
Like most paths, whether you have to sign a membership thing or perform or be initiated or something like that in a formal sense, is, you know, you accept the cause. You somehow distinguish yourself as having accepted the cause, and then you move on to the other stuff. You do intend to do the other stuff, but you got to at least start there, you know.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, they have an initiatorist, they have a ladder of initiation. As you pointed out on the unicorn, the horn there, that there was markings of different levels of progression within the cult.
So it looks like at this point that's progressed to something that they there's no longer a listing of the 2nd level and the 3rd level and the 4th level. It was listed at last year a year ago on the site as 4 levels. They're going to tell you, okay, how much is the process going to be, and what's the thing. And it's not much, you know. As I'm saying, 11 and you get to be a member for life. Another 22 or something like that. Then you get to be a member. Then you get to be a 2nd level, and that's like for life or something. So it's, you know, it's not like, you know, the one group I joined is like, okay, for your papers and stuff like that. Okay, I'll you know, but I wasn't going to.
But you know,
people spending thousands and thousands of dollars just to be members of stuff and stay members. And
yeah, because they buy meaning. They want meaning in their life, and they don't experience meaning, so they have to buy it. And the thing is that if she released this to be free, people would not attend to it, because they want to give their power to it, because only if they give their power to it, meaning that they give money, because money is power, only when they give power to it will it become meaningful to them. So they can buy whatever they want. It can be something that looks completely meaningless to another person, but because they buy it, it becomes meaningful.
Like I have a commentary group on Facebook, but the official Unicult one ran by Unicole, and I don't know who the other member is, but Lzwvmmh or something. But when that was open to the public, it's like the private Discord and stuff was where all the activity happened, not the stuff open to the 11,000 people who follow, who are listed as subscribed to her on YouTube. There's relatively little activity in compared to that. But the people who you expect some level of activity for the, I don't know, 30, 40 people that are members on an official basis that have stayed with the group. I'm not sure what actual numbers are, but it's really low compared to the other. But those people actually make a comment on a weekly basis. You're expected to at least say something on a weekly basis, and people do.
Yeah.
And it's not that they write a paper or something. It's just they say yay or nay in the middle of something going on.
Yeah. You know, I came to think of that a reason that they say thank you for your attention may actually be because when people watch them, people are giving attention to them, meaning they are giving power. And the Unicult and Unicron, she is providing the service of allowing to receive attention. She is allowing you to give her power. And that is what people want to do. They want to give power to someone so that they in return can experience something meaningful. And yeah, perhaps people in general do this, but I think that this is the reason they are saying thank you for your attention, because people want to experience meaning, and they only do it when they give power to someone else who gives something like spiritual papers in return.
And if and like with the transmutation, that's another thing. If you can feel a change, if you can feel a distinction, and you're part of that, that's something that keeps you part of that. And the creation, you know, allows people the idea that, oh, some sort of individual thing. So something I'm doing other than my work, that's just something I've chosen to do. Just have something like that, that maybe you're making something with your hands instead of just buying something like these almost garbage holiday decorations you know, it's like the Halloween costumes used to be, okay, some of them used to be paper. They tried to do that to start with. They started having you know, paper bags with lines on them, selling those, and too many people caught fire, so that wasn't going to work. But they almost do that with their flimsy costs. You know, I don't know what we're at, but it's you can have something that lasts, or maybe it's not something that lasts, but the meaning's put into it. It's like people want to buy talismans instead of making a talisman. It's like, okay, there is that, but if you're going to actually, it's like I in my, you know, in my journal, I put down whatever, you know, I put down whatever symbols I'm going to go. I'll make copies of them elsewhere. I'll meditate with stuff out. You know, I'll scratch it on a rock or in the dirt or put it in chalk or whatever. But even if I was one of those people getting, oh, here's a symbol you use, so, you know, I'm going to send you merchandise, and there's people online that get merchandise sent to them. But the fact, you know, doing something yourself, doing something creative, even if it's not perfect, certainly has a certain effect.
Yes, because
it's like, what was that one video called? Did you ever on the EA Coetic channel? There was a video called "My Paintings Are Gateways to Spirits."
I have seen that video. It was with one of the people who appears on the channel in question, I think, and she talked about her paintings. And I was actually impressed by the video and the presentation. I liked it.
But yeah, it's like, and you notice that with voice and stuff too, is that you know, down to the ritual thing, is like when people could be the best singers in the world, really, and here you are, you set forward and say, oh, this guy has okay, I said you, so I'm not talking about you. You hear some people, it's like their voice is damaged because they smoked for years before they became religious or something. I don't know. It depends. But the voice isn't particularly beautiful. But there they go. They go up there, they do a call to prayer. They do, they're out in the woods. They do a banishing pentagram ritual or something. And it's like the beauty of this thing, somebody physically attractive, somebody well performed. They're the flaws because of their physical situation that come into the thing. It's like they're not even there. Like the Israel Regardie recordings, the Golden Dawn stuff, people will not even notice the fact that this guy has trouble pronouncing his R's and W's and some little stuff like that. Occasionally he has some speech issues, and I know at times I probably have something going on too. But it's like you don't notice it, and not only do you not notice it, it's like this is powerful stuff. So,
Yeah.
because just throwing money at stuff, it's like I knew a millionaire that he could do all. Some people literally thought different of him. Oh, he just has millions of dollars. He can. But no, when they found out this guy could do plumbing, carve. He carved his own fireplace. This thing was awesome. I've been in his. I was in his living room, and yeah, he carved. He fancied up his mansion more than other people would have fancied up. I mean, being something by the river or something like that. But the fact that he could do stuff like that was a lot more impressive than the fact that he was rich. And I kind of totally agree with that. Is that the fact that he just didn't delegate power his way to the top. He could actually sit there. He could program himself. He could do electric work himself. He could, carve and do plumbing and stuff himself. So that was, more impressive than the money he had. But people didn't give there were people that basically didn't give him the level of respect that you might expect from even the fact he was just human or something, because he was rich, until they figured out he could do stuff. And
yeah.
But I think he valued stuff like his fireplace and programming that he's done a lot more, because it was something that he personally did the hard work and spent the time and the days to get stuff done.
Yes.
Just like one of their things is, obviously the gardening would fit into the green thing, and being self-sustaining. Maybe you can't be self-sustaining, but doing something. And some people could go out there, work 8 hours a day for 3 days in a row, and get done what other people would take a whole month to do. And it's fine that people take a whole month to do it, but a lot of people who have to take the whole month, like me in my condition, it took me. Some people would literally get done in a weekend what I would get done over a month, but I get it done, and other people aren't getting it done because I'm out there spending my hour a day getting stuff done as I can get it done, going back and forth, taking breaks, that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
there's a sense of fulfillment in getting work done.
Yeah, exactly.
Writing in a journal, getting your own gardening done, rather than just, because sometimes a person could get them in a situation where people will provide them with extra food, or you could earn your extra food and already have it. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
That and something, as I said, with like the costumes and the decoration and stuff, some of that stuff's better made than you're going to buy. Why spend some of if you have materials, you have a couple hours to do something, why not do something instead of spend $100 for someone else to do the same thing and maybe get something weaker? It's like, why in the world buy the Walmart version that's not going to last? That's not going to last being stored.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we basically finished with this. If there's any thoughts that you wanted to close with.
Yeah, the closing thoughts would be I appreciate that she or I say that somehow yeah, we discuss her, and we discuss her cult, and they of course can discuss me if they want. So I and I am glad that she has created what she has created, because when I observe her creation, even though people would dismiss it as not serious, it is very interesting to see in serious groups, they have structures, the way that they interact and their memberships and so forth. They have structures that are very similar to what she has created. And so there is something genuine in her creation there. And it is very interesting to compare when you look at people who are very serious, and then she is doing the very same thing, but she's having a playful attitude. That's very interesting to observe.
Well, she's you know, she's having her journey. She's taking people along with it. She's having a platform for people to interact, and some of these people wouldn't be interacting as much or whatnot otherwise. So there's definitely a definite value to that. And you know, we're not, just because we're using some of the programs. It's like let me remind the Unicultists who may see this that it's like the physical form, the role, or whatnot. As I'm saying, we're appreciating that she is and inhabits whatever she inhabits. May not agree with everything, or may not be the same in our own expressions, but it's, you know, not the criticism that, you know,
no, it's more of an exploration that
yeah, it's
you
an
come
exploration of a response. Yeah.
You at least myself, I come to know myself by studying others and to see the differences. When I see clear differences, then I know where I stand. So that's how I think.
Well, I think I said how I'm in that respect, is that you have the it's like you're translating into different languages, sort of. When you there are different languages, but, and that does affect culture to some degree, but it's like when you talk to these different spiritual groups and stuff like this, it's like you're translating to different languages. That's really sort of how I think of it. It's not necessarily that, you know, because people are going to look at my channels like, oh, I thought you were a Buddhist 6 months ago. Now you're and then you're a Muslim a month ago, and then now you're then you were a Satanist. Now you're back to this, and
Exactly.
and you were a Enochian magician before, and then you were you'll be a Zoroastrian in March again, won't you? It's like, yeah, I'll be a Zoroastrian in March. It's like, in a way, I sort of am, but then again, I don't consider myself different religions. These are just titles. That's the thing I try to get by. You've experienced my main interview. It's like I try to get beyond titles. I'm not like, oh, you're a Baptist Christian. I already know about you. I'm on to the next person.
Yeah, it's always too limiting to identify as either this or that. I personally sense that I want to explore different things, and yeah, so I agree to what you're saying there.
It's like cuisine. You go back in time. It's like you have Indian or Pakistani cuisine. They didn't have tomatoes. They didn't have potatoes. They didn't have peppers.
Yeah.
What's a curry without peppers? You can't even think of a curry without peppers. But at least I can't really, you know, associate it that way. It's always that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But well, it's good talking to you again. And if you want to have me on at some time, you think of something, I'm game for that. And
I would be glad to. I can prepare by questions and so forth, and I would be glad to interview sometime for my channel also. So yeah.
And well, I didn't use the thing, but let's say goodbye to him with his name in the Lzwvmmh, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's good.
Mo x mavwe mavo lavm vumaz wa rahaz fu